At the foot of Mount Fuji, where the land cools into shadow and the air seems to slow, a forest stretches in quiet defiance of expectation. Aokigahara Forest does not reveal itself quickly. It does not offer wide horizons or open skies. Instead, it gathers around you, tree by tree, shadow by shadow, until the outside world feels distant, almost imagined. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, shaped not by time alone, but by fire. Hardened lava lies just below the surface, its contours preserved like frozen waves. From this dark foundation, roots twist outward rather than downward, curling across the land in intricate patterns, as if searching for something just beyond reach. Light filters through the dense canopy in fragments. It arrives softened, scattered, never fully illuminating what lies ahead. Even at midday, the forest holds on to a gentle dimness, creating a space where sight becomes uncertain and sound becomes more important.
And yet, sound behaves differently here. The wind rarely moves freely between the trees. The dense growth absorbs and softens it, leaving behind a stillness that feels almost deliberate. Footsteps seem louder, then suddenly quieter. A distant rustle lingers longer than expected, then fades without explanation. There is no single path that defines this place. The forest unfolds in all directions. Its natural patterns form a subtle maze. Orientation becomes a quiet challenge, not threatening, but humbling. But beneath this stillness, life persists. Moss spreads across stone. Insects hum softly in hidden spaces. The forest breathes, not loudly, but steadily. To enter Aokigahara is not to confront silence, but to discover how many forms it can take.
Aokigahara Forest lies along the northwestern base of Mount Fuji, within Yamanashi Prefecture. Spanning roughly 35 square kilometers, it forms one of the most distinctive forest landscapes in Japan, not because of its size alone, but because of what lies beneath it. The foundation of Aokigahara was created during a powerful volcanic event known as the Jogan eruption, which occurred between 864 and 866 CE. During this eruption, vast streams of lava flowed outward from Mount Fuji, covering the surrounding terrain in thick layers of molten rock. As this lava cooled, it solidified into an irregular, rugged surface, one that still defines the forest today. Unlike typical forest environments, where soil develops gradually over long periods, Aokigahara began as a barren volcanic field. The hardened lava was porous, brittle, and uneven, filled with cavities formed by escaping gases during the cooling process. These voids created hidden hollows and underground tunnels, some of which remain accessible as lava caves. Over time, nature began its slow transformation. The first life to take hold came in the form of lichens and mosses, organisms capable of surviving in harsh, nutrient-poor conditions. These pioneers gradually broke down the surface of the lava, contributing to the formation of thin layers of soil. As organic material accumulated, fallen leaves, decaying plants, this soil deepened, allowing more complex vegetation to emerge. However, the legacy of the volcanic ground remains clearly visible. Tree roots, unable to penetrate deeply into the hardened lava, spread laterally across the surface. This creates the distinctive network of exposed roots that wind through the forest floor. Walking through Aokigahara often feels like stepping across a living web, where the ground itself appears to move in patterns. The terrain also plays a role in navigation. The dense canopy limits visibility, while the uneven surface disrupts a sense of direction. In some areas, the mineral composition of the volcanic rock, particularly its iron content, can interfere with compass readings, adding another layer of complexity to orientation.
Water behaves differently here as well. The porous lava allows rainwater to drain quickly, preventing the formation of large rivers or streams within the forest. Instead, moisture is retained in localized pockets, supporting mosses and other plant life adapted to these conditions. What emerges is a landscape shaped by contradiction. A place born from intense volcanic force, now defined by quiet growth. A terrain that resists easy movement, yet sustains a delicate balance of life. A forest that, even in its stillness, carries the memory of fire beneath every step.
To understand the deeper character of Aokigahara Forest, one must look beyond its trees and into the powerful geological force that shaped it, Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is not only Japan's most recognizable natural landmark, it is an active stratovolcano whose history is written in layers of ash, stone, and lava. Among its many eruptions, the Jogan eruption of 864 to 866 CE stands as one of the most significant in shaping the surrounding landscape. During this event, immense volumes of lava poured down Fuji's northwestern slopes, spreading outward in slow, relentless flows. These lava streams did not move like water. Thick and viscous, they advanced gradually, consuming forests, reshaping lakes, and filling valleys. Entire ecosystems were buried beneath molten rock. What remained, once the eruption subsided, was a vast expanse of hardened lava, dark, uneven, and initially devoid of life. This was the beginning of Aokigahara.
As the lava cooled, it formed a highly irregular surface. Waves, ridges, and folds became frozen into the land, preserving the movement of the eruption in solid form. Beneath the surface, trapped gases created hollow chambers and tunnels, what are now known as lava tubes. Some of these, like the famous ice caves in the region, remain today as reminders of the forest's fiery origin. At first, this landscape was inhospitable. The hardened lava lacked soil, retained little water, and presented extreme temperature fluctuations. Yet, nature does not remain absent for long. The transformation began with the smallest of pioneers, lichens and mosses. These resilient organisms attach themselves to the volcanic rock, slowly breaking it down through biological and chemical processes. Over decades, and then centuries, they created the first thin layers of soil. This gradual accumulation allowed grasses and shrubs to take root, followed eventually by trees. This process, known as ecological succession, is still visible in Aokigahara today. Unlike older forests where soil depth hides geological origins, here the connection between life and lava remains exposed. In many places, the forest floor still reveals the hardened rock beneath, a constant reminder of its beginnings.
Mount Fuji's influence extends beyond the initial eruption. The mineral composition of the volcanic soil, rich in elements like iron and magnesium, supports a distinct range of plant life. At the same time, the porous nature of the lava affects water retention, shaping how vegetation grows and spreads. Even the forest's structure reflects its origin. Tree roots, unable to penetrate deeply into the dense rock, extend horizontally across the surface. This creates the intricate network of exposed roots that define the forest floor, an adaptation born directly from the volcanic terrain. Yet despite this ever-present connection, Mount Fuji is often hidden from view within the forest itself. Its towering form disappears behind dense layers of trees or fades into mist. It is not a constant visual presence, but rather a silent force, its legacy embedded in every aspect of the land. Aokigahara is, in essence, a living extension of Mount Fuji's history. It is the quiet aftermath of eruption, the slow reclaiming of land by life. Where fire once dominated, growth now persists, steady, patient, and enduring.
The environment of Aokigahara Forest is shaped by a combination of elevation, volcanic terrain, and the surrounding influence of Mount Fuji. Together, these factors create a climate and ecosystem that feel distinctly separate from the regions beyond its boundaries.
Situated between approximately 900 and 1,300 meters above sea level, the forest experiences a temperate mountain climate. Summers are generally mild, offering relief from the intense heat found in lower parts of Japan. Winters, in contrast, can be cold, often bringing snowfall that settles quietly across the uneven ground, softening its sharp volcanic contours. One of the most defining characteristics of Aokigahara's climate is its stillness. The dense concentration of trees acts as a natural barrier to wind. Air currents that move freely across open landscapes become subdued here, filtered and slowed by tightly packed trunks and overlapping branches. As a result, the forest often feels unusually calm, with only occasional movement breaking the silence.
This limited airflow also influences how sound behaves within the forest. Rather than echoing outward or dispersing quickly, sounds are softened and absorbed by the dense vegetation. Footsteps, rustling leaves, or distant bird calls seem to linger briefly before fading into the canopy, contributing to the forest's distinctive atmosphere. Humidity plays an equally important role in shaping the ecosystem. The forest tends to retain moisture, particularly near the ground, where sunlight is scarce. The thick canopy blocks much of the direct light, reducing evaporation and creating a cool, shaded environment. These damp conditions support the growth of mosses, fungi, and moisture-dependent plant life that spread across rocks, fallen logs, and exposed roots. At the same time, the volcanic terrain introduces a unique contrast. The porous lava beneath the soil allows rainwater to drain rapidly, preventing the formation of large rivers or streams within much of the forest. Instead, moisture gathers unevenly in small pockets, sustaining clusters of vegetation while leaving nearby areas relatively dry. This balance between retained humidity and fast-draining volcanic ground creates an ecosystem unlike most forests in Japan. Seasonal changes unfold gradually and with subtle beauty. In spring, delicate new growth emerges beneath the canopy. Summer deepens the forest into rich shades of green, while autumn introduces muted tones of gold and crimson, softened by filtered light. Winter brings an even greater quiet, as snowfall blankets the lava-formed terrain and absorbs what little sound remains. Despite its reputation for stillness, Aokigahara is far from static. It is an ecosystem shaped by constant, yet nearly invisible interactions between root and stone, moisture and air, shadow and light. Every element exists in delicate relation to the others, maintaining a balance that is both fragile and enduring. In this way, the forest becomes more than a silent landscape. It is a living system, continuously adapting to conditions shaped centuries ago by volcanic fire.
At first glance, Aokigahara Forest can feel almost motionless, its dense canopy muting sound, its dim light softening detail. But beneath this quiet surface exists a complex and carefully balanced web of life, shaped by the forest's volcanic foundation and unique microclimate. The vegetation here reflects both resilience and adaptation. Towering above are coniferous trees, such as Japanese cypress, hinoki, and hemlock, alongside broadleaf species like oak and maple. These trees grow closely together, competing for limited sunlight that filters through the upper canopy. Their branches interlock, forming a dense green ceiling that restricts light from reaching the forest floor. Because the soil is thin and rests atop hardened lava, tree roots rarely grow deep. Instead, they spread horizontally, weaving across the surface in exposed, intricate patterns. This gives the forest floor its distinctive appearance, uneven, tangled, almost sculptural.
Beneath the trees, a quieter world unfolds. Mosses dominate the ground, thriving in the damp, shaded conditions. They cover rocks, fallen logs, and even the roots themselves, creating a soft green layer that feels almost continuous. Ferns and low shrubs grow in scattered patches, taking advantage of the limited light that reaches below. Fungi play a vital role in this ecosystem. Hidden among leaves and decaying wood, they break down organic matter, recycling nutrients back into the soil. In a place where resources are limited, this process is essential. Without it, the forest could not sustain its growth. Animal life in Aokigahara is present, though often unseen. Small mammals such as foxes and raccoon dogs move quietly through the undergrowth. Rodents inhabit the forest floor, contributing to seed dispersal and soil aeration. Bird species nest within the trees, their calls occasionally breaking the stillness, brief reminders that the forest is alive with activity.
Insects are perhaps the most numerous inhabitants of all. They pollinate plants, decompose matter, and serve as a crucial link in the food chain. Amphibians, too, find refuge in the moist pockets scattered throughout the forest, relying on the stable humidity for survival. What defines Aokigahara's ecosystem is not abundance in the conventional sense, but balance. No single species dominates. Instead, each form of life exists within limits imposed by the environment: light, moisture, and soil depth. This creates a system where coexistence is essential and excess is rare. Even the apparent stillness contributes to this balance. The limited wind reduces disturbance, allowing delicate growth to persist. The filtered light slows development, encouraging steady rather than rapid expansion. To an observer, the forest may seem quiet, almost empty, but in reality, it is full of subtle movement, of processes unfolding at a pace that is easy to overlook. Life here does not announce itself loudly. It endures quietly, shaped by the same forces that once formed the land beneath it.
Beyond its natural features, Aokigahara Forest occupies a complex place within Japanese cultural memory, one shaped by history, folklore, and evolving social perspectives. For centuries, forests in Japan have held symbolic meaning. They are often seen as spaces of transition, places where the boundary between the human world and the natural or spiritual world becomes less defined. Aokigahara, with its dense structure and quiet atmosphere, naturally came to be associated with such ideas. One of the most frequently mentioned historical concepts connected to the forest is ubasute, a story often debated among historians, in which elderly individuals were abandoned in remote areas during times of famine. While there is limited concrete evidence that this practice occurred in Aokigahara specifically, its presence in folklore contributed to the forest's early reputation as a place linked with hardship and isolation. Over time, literature played a significant role in shaping public perception. In modern Japanese writing, Aokigahara began to appear as a setting that symbolized solitude, introspection, and emotional struggle. One notable example is the novel Kuroi Jukai by Seicho Matsumoto, which helped reinforce the association between the forest and themes of inner conflict and the search for meaning.
These portrayals were not purely descriptive. They were interpretive. The forest became a narrative space, a backdrop against which human experiences were explored. As these cultural representations spread, they began to influence how both locals and outsiders viewed Aokigahara. Over time, its identity became layered, part natural wonder, part cultural symbol. However, it is important to approach this history with care. The forest itself is not defined solely by these narratives. While cultural stories have shaped its image, they represent only one dimension of a much broader reality. Aokigahara is also a place of ecological importance, geological uniqueness, and quiet natural beauty. In recent years, there has been a growing effort within Japan to reframe how the forest is understood. Rather than focusing exclusively on its more somber associations, attention has shifted toward promoting awareness, respect, and a balanced perspective.
Educational initiatives, guided visits, and informational resources now emphasize the forest's environmental significance and encourage visitors to engage with it thoughtfully. This shift reflects a broader cultural understanding
that places like Aokigahara cannot be reduced to a single story. They exist at the intersection of nature and narrative, where history, myth, and reality meet, but do not fully define one another.
Like many ancient landscapes, Aokigahara Forest exists not only as a physical place, but as a space shaped by stories. Its dense structure, filtered light, and unusual quiet have long invited interpretation. For generations, people have tried to explain the feeling of being within the forest, the subtle disorientation, the way sound behaves, the sense that the environment resists easy understanding. From these impressions, myths began to take form. In Japanese folklore, forests are often seen as liminal spaces, thresholds between the familiar and the unknown. Aokigahara, situated at the base of Mount Fuji, naturally became associated with this idea. Stories spoke of spirits, echoes, and unseen presences, not as literal claims, but as cultural expressions of the forest's atmosphere. One recurring theme in these legends is the notion of the forest as a place where direction becomes uncertain. Paths appear to shift, landmarks seem to repeat. This perception is rooted in reality. The dense growth and irregular terrain can make navigation challenging, but over time, these physical traits were transformed into narrative elements, reinforcing the idea of the forest as a space that resists being fully known.
Other stories draw from broader historical and cultural themes. The concept of ubasute, though largely symbolic and debated, contributed to the image of remote forests as places connected with human hardship and difficult choices. While there is little evidence tying this practice directly to Aokigahara, its presence in folklore added another layer to the forest's evolving reputation. As these narratives accumulated, they began to shape how the forest was perceived, not just locally, but internationally. Aokigahara became known less for its ecological uniqueness and more for the meanings projected onto it. Yet, it is important to understand that myths are not facts. They are reflections. They reveal how people relate to a place, how they interpret its silence, its density, and its unfamiliar patterns. In Aokigahara's case, the myths speak less about the forest itself and more about human attempts to understand environments that feel different from everyday experience.
The forest does not change because of these stories. Its trees continue to grow. Its ecosystem continues to function. Its ground remains shaped by ancient lava flows. But the way it is seen, by those who have never walked within it, is often filtered through these layers of narrative. To approach Aokigahara responsibly is to recognize this distinction. The legends may add depth to its cultural history, but they should not define its reality. Beneath the stories lies a landscape that is neither mystical nor empty, but quietly complex, shaped by natural forces and sustained by life.
In the modern era, the global perception of Aokigahara Forest has been shaped largely by media. Documentaries, films, books, and online content have introduced the forest to audiences far beyond Japan. Through these portrayals, Aokigahara has become widely recognized, but not always accurately understood. Some productions have approached the forest with care, focusing on its geological origins, its ecosystem, and its connection to Mount Fuji. These works highlight the natural beauty and scientific significance of the area, presenting it as a place worthy of study and respect. Others, however, have emphasized more dramatic elements, often simplifying the forest into a single narrative. In these portrayals, complexity is reduced and atmosphere is amplified in ways that can overshadow the reality of the environment. This imbalance has contributed to a global image that is both powerful and incomplete. For many viewers, Aokigahara is known first through these mediated representations, rather than through direct experience or balanced information. As a result, its identity becomes shaped by expectation, what people believe they will find, rather than what the forest actually is. In recent years, there has been a growing awareness of the responsibility that comes with storytelling. Content creators, journalists, and educators are increasingly recognizing the importance of presenting Aokigahara with accuracy and sensitivity. Efforts are being made to shift the narrative toward a more nuanced understanding, one that acknowledges cultural history without overshadowing ecological and geological realities. The forest's global image is still evolving, and perhaps, with time, it will come to be seen not as a place defined by a single idea, but as a landscape of depth.
Today, Aokigahara Forest is approached with a growing sense of responsibility, both by local authorities and by those who choose to visit. Situated within Yamanashi Prefecture, near Mount Fuji, the forest is recognized not only as a natural landscape, but as a place requiring care, awareness, and respect. Clear trails have been established to guide visitors safely through designated areas, reducing the risk of disorientation and protecting sensitive parts of the ecosystem. Informational signs now focus on education rather than mystery. They highlight the forest's volcanic origins, its ecological importance, and the need to preserve its fragile balance. Visitors are encouraged to remain on marked paths, avoid disturbing wildlife, and leave no trace behind. Equally important is the emphasis on mindfulness.
Modern awareness efforts promote compassion, responsibility, and understanding, reminding visitors that Aokigahara is not a spectacle, but a living environment shaped by both natural history and human perception. In the shadow of Mount Fuji, Aokigahara Forest remains what it has always been, a place shaped by fire, softened by time, and sustained by quiet life. Its silence is not emptiness, but presence. Its complexity is not mystery alone, but balance. To understand the forest is not to define it, but to listen to its ground, its growth, and its stillness. And in that listening, we are reminded that nature does not ask to be explained, only to be respected.